Yeah, well, that's what he keeps saying. He's like, I don't know, I'm getting old and this,
Wow,
I can't do it stuff like I used to anymore.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You're good, Casey?
Almost.
You just tell me when.
Okay, actually, I think we are perfect. Let me just
Ready, set.
smile, everyone. We're good. I don't know.
Who's Tim Steve? He's, Luke's team.
Oh, okay.
On engineers and gonna talk to this first, so.
You don't even have his picture turned on. How we know what he looks like?
Hi, everybody. I'm just in the car, so I'm just trying to figure out the phone here.
All good. I'll go through some formalities and then we'll bring you guys in, so. Welcome, everybody, 4/34, June 4th, 2025. Call the regular June monthly board meeting of the Tioga County IDA to order. Go through a quick roll call. I am here. Brenda Ivanic.
Here.
Kevin Gillette is excused. Marty Sauerbrei.
Here.
Tracy Manell.
Yep.
And Eric Knowles is excused. Joe just called me. Like I said, he's not gonna join us. So as guests, we have Casey, Britt, Luke Grassmeyer, and Tim Steve virtually. Matt Freeze. Morning Times. First item on the agenda is privilege of the floor. So we have a couple folks from Hunt Engineering. Luke is here in person. Thanks for joining us. Come on up if you want. They're going to talk to us about the Lounsbury study that's been ongoing for a number of months.
Yep, so we got the report just about wrapped up outside of the geotech exploration. So I'll just go down quickly what the report went through. Everybody doesn't need me to drill down. So the focus was shovel readiness for the two properties. And we focused on the Buck Road and Stand Hill Road corner, and then the property on Smith Creek Road. So our focus was environmental investigation, electrical utility, natural gas, telecommunication, water, sewer, stormwater, the bridge that's on Smith Creek property, and then the geotechnical portion. So we looked at existing conditions, potential proposed developments, and then we looked at cost estimates to prepare those sites for shovel readiness with the intent of, if there is a project, we have a lot of background included in this report that either a developer or the IDA can refer to then figure out what those early onset costs would be for development. So let's go down quick key findings. No major environmental concerns, although there are previously delineated wetlands on the Smith Creek property. And as you guys are probably aware, all wetland laws are being changed, and we're kind of in a weird gray area for the most part with those. We probably just want to delineate those more, again, for a more recent investigation. And then there's really a 90-day process where the Army Corps and DEC can argue with each other about what to do. For electrical, there's 3-phase electrical, and is sourced in like 2 different directions, including the solar fields. So the electrical is really great there, and you shouldn't really have any major constraints in developing those 2 properties. Natural gas, if it's not legislated out by the state, it would be readily available. Again, it'd be kind of hard to predict the use and need, and therefore to determine what impacts that would be. But you have natural gas on Stand Hill and Berry Road, which is intersecting Smith Creek. Telecommunications, or Southern Tier Network, could provide dark fiber, which is basically a dedicated fiber internet connection, which is pretty much ideal for business class service. And they actually were willing to give us a rough price of like $12,000 to connect both those sites. Water, no real issues there. There's water on Buck Road, and Berry Road actually doesn't have a water main on it. So to access Smith Creek, you would come from Crown Court. So we do have a recommendation that if you were to connect water to Smith Creek, you may consider a looping system down Berry Road, provide better pressures and flows. Which would kind of be a standalone project in itself. And it would be isolated to service whatever the development is on Smith Creek. We'd want to pay attention to whatever gets built there for fire flows, because there is a future water storage tank behind Crown, or a designated future water storage tank, and that might need to get built depending on your water use on new development there.
Are they, is that in their long-term plan, do you know?
It looked like it was on the documents when they did the water tank,
Yeah.
which was primarily for Crown Cork,
So
so.
they were gonna run 3 shifts originally,
Hmm,
and they're not running.
it looks like they are a massive water user too.
Good
Yes, they are.
news, Veolia will not be involved.
That is correct. Continue.
Good. For sewer, both sites would require a pump system, and we didn't find any overall issues with the wastewater treatment plant, which is just down the road
Right.
on the riverside.
Pretty big.
So on the Stand Hill area, all of those buildings have pump systems that pump privately down the road. Down Stand Hill, across the creek towards the truck stop. We're kind of recommending if you could easily put another pump station in and pump more into that system, but it's becoming kind of spaghetti of private pumping systems there. And that could be looked at or studied to clean that up and maybe have one municipal pump system where, FedEx, the Army, the town barn could all gravity flow into and then be pumped. And then obviously if any of the developments where we don't have to use it, that would be a factor, but no major problems there. And the same would be for Smith Creek. So for storm systems, we basically did kind of concept plans of a build out and calculated what that storm treatment size would be, so that you can kind of figure out how big of a building and parking areas you could have without encroaching on the need for square footage for the storm systems. Then the Smith Creek Bridge, pretty straightforward, standard design and costs are included, although it doesn't look like it's gonna, fall in immediately. So for geotechnical, we got a little hiccup that the fields are being used for agriculture and they didn't want the trucks to come in there and do the boring, so that's scheduled. We'll just have to stay on them, and then we'll just include that as like a appendices to this. But that'll bring us a little more information on storm infiltration rates, because we calculated a rough number based on the soil maps. And it also gives us a general idea that if the building's getting built there, would be a typical strip footing design, which we expect it to be, but it'd be a nice thing to have on hand whenever you're planning a new building. So overall, they're both quite developable. Buck Road, very easy from a utility standpoint, because pretty much everything is there. That's about summarizes it.
What was the cost estimate for the bridge?
I have to pull that up. I printed out. So I printed that piece out.
I don't know how wide it is either.
It's
I
not
print that.
super
Yeah,
wide
very
now, no, it has
Do
to
you need
be.
to pull up the document?
Yeah, but I was just curious, because I'm thinking for Fast New York, there's capital improvement funding, and I just didn't know
Let's say
what we're talking about.
Yeah, I have to pull that up.
Okay.
I don't want to print the whole thing, so I just printed
Yeah.
the juicy
So
stuff.
two things, now, I've been here a long time, so I'm going back in history, when we talked about bringing some more industrial things to that site. One of the issues was electrical, because we were, this goes way back when Dan was here before. And that they needed to more energy there. Now, if you were just gonna run kind of a small thing, but if there was major manufacturing there, they would need more electricity brought to that site. And at that time, say electric and gas was not talking to us. Did that ring a bell to you?
Yeah, that's kind of ongoing challenges.
Yeah, because of the power,
Yeah.
so you would want to be mindful of what kind of industries put there are they gonna need, because that would be tough.
Yeah,
New York State electric gas is tough to work.
It looks like they, from us kind of figuring out their grid, because they won't really tell you.
Yeah,
It looks like they did a lot of improvements on the other side of the highway and almost refed some of this area from their, I guess they kind of have a station to the southwest.
right, and they're changing that, but what, that'll happen there.
So I guess it looks like there's new three-phase coming from that direction.
Yeah.
Connecting like towards this way, and then the added solar field. Cause that is also being fed down, Buck Road and coming back around the other way. So you kind of have three-phase power from going both, but it does look like it was relatively newly installed.
Yeah.
And kind of rerouted.
Maybe, yeah, okay. And when we put in the water system there, didn't we overbuild it?
No, right, we could look into that, I don't recall that.
Or maybe that was the sewer, whatever that was gonna go into the river, that had to be treated, so is that sewer?
Yeah.
Or treatment,
Yeah,
There was something about Crown doing some treatment
They do.
before left the property or
Yeah.
something.
they do.
they do a
treatment on
lot,
site,
but I
yeah.
think when we built it, it was very robust. We built it large intentionally.
And I think we improved it when Crum went in there too.
And so that might have used up some of the, we thought we overbuilt it or
A
whatever,
bigger pump or something.
yeah, okay. Just wanna
Yeah, we didn't,
bring back the history.
yeah, we
behind-
did, I think there was a comment about a screen, but there wasn't anything, wasn't squeaky wheels there
Okay,
on that side.
just good to ask.
Yeah, and they are upgrading they're supposed to be upgrading the substation there and moving it out of the floodplain, and then a substation on south side Reno too, so. I guess we'll see, NICEAG is, so.
Because they are changing.
Yeah,
But-
they're redoing the main
Yeah.
transmission lines all the way from, pretty much all the way from Forsyth into
Yeah, down.
Oakdale, Broome County.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Do we have questions for Luke, or are we all set? Yeah, we're free.
Oh, we'll have questions, but not yet.
No, that's all right.
Have to have things refreshed.
Oh, exactly, no, let's just, this.
A lot going on down there.
All right, next item on the agenda is approval of May 7th regular meeting minutes. If so moved. Okay.
So move.
First by Tracy, second by Marty, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Did anyone else get financials, Casey's, or
I have attached, put them all in everyone's packet.
if folks are more comfortable, we can do an email acknowledgement of financials, because they literally just got done. So this is the first month that you'll have QuickBooks Online reports. Casey's, I know, has been hard at work, with Bowers, trying to make sure we got everything moved over and migrated to QuickBooks Online, so the reports will look a little bit different, but I have no problem if folks are more comfortable. I can send out
Okay,
an email, just looking for an acknowledgement on those, so people have a chance to review them. I did print out the transaction report, so biggest dollar items last month, RJ Foreman's still coming along nicely, $26,000 down, which is great. We had our officers and board of directors liability policies come out, $4,000 we paid J.S. Miller for the appraisals that we had done out in Nichols. And the biggest dollar item is actually we paid Hunt a 50% and then another 40%. So we paid them up to 90% completion of their report. I assume the net will pay with Geotech. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that'll hang out there for a little bit.
Her name.
Oh, I know, you're all set. So I think the only thing we have to do there, I talked to Casey a little bit, is book a receivable for the grant portion so that we can get our P&L to balance. And then we had our final payment for the workforce coordinator position, which that's been around a long time. Everything that's wrapped up now, right?
Yeah, we just gotta get the reimbursement for the NRC, yeah.
All right. I don't even recall on the reimbursement portion. Are we gonna see a portion of that reimbursement?
All of it, yeah.
We will?
Yeah.
Okay, because that goes back, how many years do you? I don't recall
Twenty
exactly.
twenty-one maybe.
Yeah, I think it was like 20.
All right. Stop. There. New business. Tractor Supply's been an ongoing discussion. We're just kind of a small player in a pool of multiple players. Did you want to talk about that at all?
Just that, they reached out, the, engineering firm for Tractor Supply, they're doing the legal work, they're preparing it, they reached out to Joe Mayer. I think Joe just sent them the deed this morning with the exhibit A, so they're gonna be coming back, we were thinking it was gonna be this month, but probably next month, with an easement request from the IDA, it'll be between the town of Owego and the IDA, and then a deed, a small deed, transferred to the town of Owego from the IDA is what's gonna be.
They're moving right along there.
Yeah, they're certainly not held up by this
Wetland.
little hiccup, yeah, well, wetness too, but I mean. They're obviously moving forward with the assumption that this will smooth out and be fine and they'll eventually get water
They
there.
say you have to mow anything over there, cause you can't mow anything right now.
If you can mow something, better do it today, cause
Yeah.
rain be coming back, really. Coming back,
My lawn's like a swarm.
mine is too. So we'll keep chatting on that one once there's stuff to sign. IRP loan agreements. So we finally did have some correspondence with USDA. I don't know if you wanted to bring any of that paperwork up.
I attached one in there's one in the,
Yeah,
I didn't do the ones the signature ones, are you talking about that? I just.
Well, there was that highlighted doc with some of the high points of the dollar amount and,
There's a letter of conditions.
yeah.
Yeah, is that what you wanted with the letter?
Yeah, because this is
Okay, yeah,
not
that's
what we
okay.
approved when we first talked about this. I just want to make sure everybody's clear. We applied for this, Christine did. Was it in might have been 2023, when she first made application. We were the only applicant. The response at the time is that there was not funding available for the full amount of our application. We were advised, I think we were gonna get $180,000 in change, then there was the administration change, and we were basically told everything was on hold. Now, all of a sudden, we've gotten paperwork that we signed, just basically initial go-ahead documents on, that we're gonna get up to $299,999, but the one piece that was never discussed when we made original approval of the application is that we are on the hook, based on the way this was applied, for a 10% contribution to the fund. So we could be on the hook for making a basically $30,000 infusion into the the large scale IRP pool of funds. So that does certainly increase the expense to the IDA for doing this. Nothing's final in regards to our agreements until funds come through, but I just wanted to make sure people were aware that we went from like 180,000 to potentially seeing almost 300,000.
So we gotta cost 30,000.
And right, that 10% payment, which again, we haven't gone out for IRP money in a long time, way before my time on the board. I think the last pool of money that we received for IRP might have been way back in 2012. And whether or not this 10% contribution was something that we put, it's a scoring model, so she put in, Christine, that is, put in that we would make this contribution because it gave us a higher score. But I would be hard pressed to think that if you went back and looked at what we approved as a board for the application, that was never discussed, that I recall.
Just so you know, we get $299,999. I'll donate $1 to make it even.
There you go.
That's just the kind of guy.
There you go. I mean, obviously, that'll significantly increase the horsepower that we have in our loan fund. When we funded the last sizable IRP and RBAG loan to the folks out on Glenmary, we were basically out of fund. Now, we've recouped some since then, so it's not to say that we couldn't make loans now, but this would put enough in our coffers where you could really go out and market the program to whoever, and if you had a couple requests for up to the maximum amount, you could still make them.
So we put in 30 and that comes, that's part of the funds that are loaned and would come back.
I don't know that we'd see that back, right? I don't think you'd see it back, would you?
It's you contribute cash equity into the loan program
Right.
essentially.
So I mean, we get the $299, $999, which we also pay back over 30 years roughly at
Right.
1% interest. Plus you're making that upfront fee payment.
There is some, I started to kind of look into the regulation, the IRP regulations, and there is some scenarios where you can pull the equity back out, but I haven't had a chance to dig into it enough. But I mean, yeah, you'd essentially, it would revolve back through loan payments, but you
Right,
couldn't
yeah.
just like take it
Yeah,
out of the
right.
loan.
No, that's what I meant though. It comes back to you.
Yeah.
50 years, but yeah.
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 Yeah, because is that, I mean, are they gonna then, where do we make our contribution? Do we make it to USDA or do we put it right in our IRP?
You
pot?
put it right in your IRP.
Okay, so that's not
Oh.
too big of a deal.
So it's there. It's sitting there.
And do we get to keep the interest if it's sitting there before we?
Well, we keep the interest on the loans themselves, basically, but, you know, ideally, you put this money to work ASAP.
Right.
You
That we
know,
get to keep.
the interest.
Yeah.
And we actually are sitting on decent RBAG money again, which that pool of money's great, because that's grant funds. That's no expense, but
Get it while you can.
yeah, I mean, that's just it, you know, there's no guarantees of when this will come back, but, you know, this should put us in good standing for the foreseeable future in making sure that we've got funds to move. But it's a big change, you know, I don't know what all of a sudden, you know, you're getting 180 once you're getting almost 300.
You almost stole it.
Yeah, so we'll wait. I mean, there's still no final paperwork. They've really given us no indication of when we might see final paperwork either,
So
so.
it may not for a long time.
Right, this is bizarre, dude. Not only did you not have any money taken away, you got more than you asked for,
I'm just joking.
Mhm.
and it's like, it could go away.
Which is, well, it's strange, I mean, because they wanted the docs back pretty quick, and that was gonna be the same.
Yeah,
Wait,
or maybe they're trying to get it done.
they think they might be
Mhm.
trying, it might be one of those situations where, yeah, they're trying to get it done before it
Before the-
disappears.
They say no more.
So more to come when that's finally finalized, but that's the update. We're on the front end of some facade loan application changes, that's also part of the.
Very much, Dave.
Thank you. So they're highlighted in here. We did just make a facade loan here recently. To Co-op Realty on Lake Street. There's a bunch of highlighted changes in here, which I'm not gonna ask for a motion on these. I'd really like the loan committee to look at these and then we'll bring them back. That's okay. This loan committee has not seen these yet, but please let us know if you have any issues with these. Trying to make this program a little bit more end user friendly, so to speak, so it would increase the dollar amount, so it would increase the terms. It would at least charge some interest, whereas right now they're interest free. Eliminating some of the restrictions on location. I think the only thing that we might want to do with that, but then I was thinking, Brett, is we want to put a little bit more definition behind commercial building. Just so that we don't end up with kind of off the beaten path. You know, goofy requests, which I heard from the folks at Agway, you know, just for instance, you know, I don't know if they would qualify with the old wording in here, but I mean, that would be the ideal potential applicant that might, you know, now be able to seek some funding on this program, whereas they couldn't before because they're not on a true main street.
Do we have any outstanding?
Just one that we just, Owen Insurance in the Valley paid off last year, and then we just booked the one for Co-op Realty on Lake Street, like literally within the last 6 weeks.
We have like $300,000.
Right, so we've got decent amount of funding out there, again, to
The
put
loan.
to
Mhm.
work, yeah.
Just sitting there.
Yeah, just hanging out.
Yep, so ideally, this will make us a little bit, like I said, end user friendly. There is a bunch on the last page here in red, which would allow this to modify from a strictly reimbursement program, which is obviously a challenge for folks with either liquidity or funding problems. It does increase some administrative effort on our behalf, but certainly that's another thing that could make this program a lot more palatable, where we'd be looking at giving people money on a draw schedule and progression payments with inspections, so.
Mm.
Feel free to reach out to the group in regards to questions, concerns. You're good with it, and we'll get this in front of our loan committee this month.
Yeah, we mostly just wanted to make it so you guys had an idea of what we were talking about.
I mean, I personally think it makes sense, again, as long as you guys are good with the tracking of the administrative part of things, if we end up becoming basically a pseudo construction finance. Pool with the funds. And then the third item on here is the facade loan account is with Community Bank right now. What we've been trying to encourage folks to do, which again makes a lot of sense from an admin perspective, is to move any existing loan recipients that we can, but certainly new ones, especially to automatic payments. So we just closed the most recent loan and we tried to set up a ACH with Community Bank, and we were basically told to do that, we would have to sign up for a whole new service that would cost us $45 a month,
Oh,
which certainly not going to recommend that we do that. So there's just been a little bit of discussion as to whether we consider potentially moving that bank account to another financial institution that wouldn't make that quite so cumbersome.
because otherwise they have to go to Nichols if they're gonna pay in person.
Well, they can send us a check, but yeah, then we've got to make the deposit.
If possible, just, you know, as we're setting up new facade loans, it'd just be easier for us process wise to set up ACH payments, so I think we kind of brought that request forward to see if you guys would be comfortable with us moving it to like Tioga State Bank, since we have a lot of accounts there now. And we don't be charged that fee to set it up. It just makes it easier on our end. Yeah.
And then we can print our checks too for TSB at the office, where Community Bank, we had a handwrite a check to Coif Realty for their loan, so it just seems like it would be better if we have a printed.
Yeah,
check.
that'd be business friendly.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very strange. I don't know. I mean, again, every bank operates differently, but it was just kind of clunky. I mean, the office wasn't even basically permitted to discuss on the topic. I had to get in contact with somebody with the Treasury Department.
Which business how much, do we have accounts with Community Bank?
I mean, yeah, we've got mostly CDs, and then this is the biggest account. That's a checking account there.
and the one that's there, we're also we were gonna close, it's a small account, right?
Yeah, I think that was one of the old Best Buy accounts.
That has like $300 in it, so once we close that one, we'll only have the facade loan bank account and then our CDs.
It is a challenge when the banks, community was a lot easier, obviously, when they were in town. And there are a few other banks that are in town.
Who's there now?
We go, nobody, that's a vacant space. I don't
No,
know.
no, no, who's at the Community Bank down there now?
Elizabeth Stanton is the office manager that's down there. Well, she's very responsive. I have no issues working with Elizabeth, but. She's just not cheap.
They're just clunky, they haven't gotten to the new world.
Yeah, well, it just seems like for whatever reason, that service is steered right towards a full suite of electronic banking products that we don't need.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Everybody go that
you
route.
basically been pushed into a cash management system, which again, if we were originating our own wires and ACHs, it can stop payments and things like that.
It's be awesome,
Not what we need,
very helpful to us.
no. Pure
Okay.
expense, so. I can't make a motion that we would move an account to my employer, so. I don't know if we don't have a full quorum. So we might have to hold off on that one.
That's fine. We don't have full form to vote on things, but not for that.
I'd have to abstain.
Gotcha.
I'll move it to
Okay,
TSB, I'd have to abstain.
you have to do it for. another time.
Railroad easement, that was something that just came out, right?
Yes, I printed what John gave us.
Joe,
Joe, sorry.
you don't want me putting you right.
Yeah, I don't know, there's just two of them. I just printed what he gave us because he just sent it pretty much before the meeting.
This,
What's
what
that?
I'm looking at, it's the same as the. Well,
No,
maybe
this
not,
one's
is it?
Now they look the same. This one's, it says resolution authorizing the agency to enter into a pipe or wireline easement right of way agreement with Southern Tier Network, allow crossings.
What happened out there?
Already.
So Southern Network got grant funds to, build up to North Valley. So they're gonna be doing crossings, basically, which we have some existing easements or lease agreements with Southern Tier Network for the broadband infrastructure. So that's what this is. Southern Tier Network reached out kind of a couple weeks ago, and Joe's been trying to work with them to.
So this is the resolution to enter into the easement, but we have any, I mean,
He hasn't provided the actual easement or lease agreement
No,
itself
so-
yet. It's just the resolution.
So I just printed what we have so far.
so do we need to move on this or?
I think he wanted you to, and then he was gonna work on putting the actual, an easement together.
Joe, yeah.
It would mean North Valley would want to be hooked up on our
I don't,
IT system.
I don't see it.
Down the road, probably.
No, I just don't know what the easement's gonna say. I don't know, you know, I assume they'll pay us a lease.
They've been waiting.
Yeah.
$50 or $100 a month.
Yeah, I don't know what they, that's the challenge.
I
We
think
said-
we can wait till we figure out what's going on.
We can,
When are they trying to get this in place by?
I- Joe's been
They're moving
handling
pretty
this. Yeah, they're trying to move pretty fast. Joe asked us to look at the IDA's other easements that are out there with STN, some of the other fiber companies, I think.
That was the major question is how much we were gonna settle on for an annual fee.
Yeah, which I think we can come back and the board can agree on that amount. I think initially, like, for one agreement you guys have with STN, Southern Tier Network, it's like $250 for a crossing.
I was gonna say.
For one
And that's for the whole year.
This is
No, it's
for
for the year.
We don't know how many
Right.
crossings
Yeah.
or anything on.
I believe it's 9, but we can double,
Nine.
yeah,
Okay,
so there's quite a few more.
so I mean, I'm fine making a recommendation that we pass motion to approve the resolution, just subject to making sure we know what the details are.
Yeah,
You
seeing
know, I have
the-
no issue with him, you know, further in the discussion and getting that.
Yeah.
just gonna-
Especially if it's gonna hold anything up.
Right, yeah, I don't wanna hold it up.
I'm sure they're trying to get out to where Kevin is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right.
He's there.
Forgot about Kevin out there.
Yeah, so I would look for a motion to,
I'm making a motion.
you know, move forward with the resolution and then we'll get reported back to us the details. Tracy and Brenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carry. And the next one is a new topic that came forward here just in the last few days for the grant, right?
Yeah, so AMT, you guys worked with them before, the Alliance for Manufacturing Technology.
Yeah, long.
Yeah, so they're working on submitting an ARC grant application and they reached out to Elaine and I. They're looking for a letter of support from the IDA for their application. And then they also asked about, they're kind of calling it a matching fund commitment for the IDA, but it's more, they want us to agree, they're looking for about 20,000 of us setting aside some of the IRP or equipment lease funds to support manufacturing equipment purchases for local manufacturers in Tioga County. And it's just a way to match their ARC request. I mean, it'd still go through our normal loan committee process and review and approvals, but kind of a small ask there, just 20,000, especially since we're getting the
Well, what are they
IRP.
looking to do here in Tioga?
So they have like a list of Tioga County businesses that they're gonna, manufacturers that they're gonna reach out to, try to help, Well, they're calling it the RAISE ST, so Results Driven Automation and Innovation Solutions for Enterprises in the Southern Tier. So we're trying to help manufacturers, innovate their manufacturing technology, so automation, digital connectivity, AR and artificial intelligence. So they're gonna really be handling the program. But like I said, they're gonna reach out to specific Tioga County manufacturers and see if they're interested in the program, and there'd be a portion of grant, and then the matching funds would be the loan commitments that we're setting aside.
Do we get to know who the
Manufacturers are.
manufacturers are?
They sent a list. We could obviously ask them to reach out to others too. But Advanced Drainage Systems, Applied Technology, A Steel Flash, they haven't reached out to these guys yet. They're just planning on doing this outreach.
So it's a wish list. They're just,
Yes.
they're hoping they can, okay.
They're hoping they'll get demand for what there is, and what they're asking from us isn't actually. The way that we've got it put together wouldn't really be a cash match. It would just be basically an isolated chunk out of our IRP pool for funds that are dedicated to meet the match requirement, right?
And then,
There's a marketing piece to it that it sounded like your office was predominantly gonna provide.
yeah, so they're covering a couple different counties with this program, not just us. So if nothing moves forward, then we don't have to move forward with any of the loans, and it just goes. I don't know, we're just kind of setting it aside in some sense.
So they're looking for us to say, yep, we think this is a good idea.
Yeah, and then the other,
Writing that letter.
Elaine wrote one
Elaine
up
wrote
that
it.
that I would sign, that basically says
There's the letter in that packet that she wrote.
No, I didn't print it in case we had to make, edits to it. Depending on what fund, because it included two funds, it included the equipment lease she wrote and the IRP. Cause I didn't know which one we wanted to set aside, because otherwise it made it seem like we were setting aside both accounts.
It sounded like we talked more about IRP recently, right? It
So
was
I think-
initially drafted as the equipment lease program,
Yeah.
because that one's not quite ready to implement.
I would
So are
say
they-
the IRP, yeah.
Are they gonna do what we do? Or somebody else does? I mean,
No,
I know they've been around a long time. Do they do something different that other agencies are not doing?
they're going after the grant funds to help manufacturers, like I said, implement advanced technologies, automation, digital connectivity, and then we would just step in as a match, a loan commitment.
And they're going after the money that sits where?
It's ARC grant money.
Oh, then, okay, all right,
So they've been around a long time,
yeah.
doing the same thing.
They work with manufacturers on like a broad spectrum, like workforce readiness. they
The
help
maximum
with different
contribution, the
funds.
maximum grant that any one applicant would get would be 20.
No, it's just a really small amount of loan funds that they're asking us to
For
set.
us.
Yeah, it's not, that's
We don't know
not,
how much that they're gonna even get yet, right?
Yes.
Cause I'm just thinking some of the manufacturers
is
on that list, like
feeder
$40,000
money.
is a drop in a bucket for.
So
yeah,
if
because
we,
ARC requires 50% match from projects, so they're probably asking the other industrial development agencies for similar matching funds for loans.
so
Plus,
two things, if we commit to supporting them, have we committed to giving them money?
Not,
Same breath?
no, the only thing we're committing to is setting aside the 20,000 in IRP loan funds.
They would take it as a
lend.
cash match if you wanted it, but.
they could,
A business would apply just like our regular loan application, that loan committee would evaluate it, you'd make a recommendation. We're just saying, hey, we're gonna support this project by setting 20,000 in our loan funds aside. We're not handing those to A&T. It would just be making loans to Tioga County businesses, basically, that have been approved, recommended for
Okay,
approval.
that was
by
my
our
next
loan committee.
question. Are we talking about Tioga County?
For,
Not every other county, but just our county for what we're saying?
yes,
And right now, what we're submitting, really the letter of support, it's not really even anything fully binding, so to speak.
no, it's just, yeah, a letter of support, and then that we're agreeable to having the matching loan funds for any businesses that use their AR, if they get the ARC grant award. And then they also asked us to do in-kind, which would come from our ED&P department to help with marketing, so just getting the program out there, but we do that anyway. We promote the IRP through deluge and on social media and all that, so it's just an in-kind that we have to keep track of on our end, it's not. But that's not a request of the IDA, that's just a request of our economic development department.
Really, at this point, all we're looking for is
Yeah, they're looking for support.
It's an approval from the board to provide the support letter.
So we've got to write a letter.
And
Elaine's gonna do that.
drafted this.
She drafted one in
Okay.
there.
You didn't put it in here though, because you said there was two different.
I didn't know what
Version.
fund we were going
Okay,
to
all right.
take it out of.
Well, the Southern Tier 8 and
Do you
they're
want me to
always
bring it
out
up
there
so you can see it?
trying to.
No, it's okay.
I can send it out via email too. Well, I think I did. It was in the original packet. I
Make
just
up your
didn't
mind,
print it.
did you? Or didn't?
I think I did.
We'll send it out right after this meeting, and we'll just update it with the correct note on it, you guys, but.
But if folks are okay with it, I would look for a motion for us to provide the letter of support.
Yeah.
For ARC and the grant program and set aside our 2,000.
There's so many programs,
I know.
sometimes it's hard to know, and then you're supporting it because it's gonna help your businesses, because they're gonna
Yeah, that's on behalf of Elaine.
sources,
That's
but
on behalf of,
you have to be reminded. So many.
right.
But in Southern Tier 8, is out there
That's your name,
beating the bushes trying to help
not your signature.
the Southern Tier, so, right?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
That's right.
It fits the mission. It's a relative, that's a nominal ask in the grand scheme of things. If we were out of money in IRP again, that would make it a little bit.
I think I'm okay with this.
Um,
Okay,
look for a motion to provide the letter of support.
I make motion.
Second.
Tracy, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Opposed, carried. Just a quick note, I've got a couple phone calls this week, and I think we might even stopped in to see you, Britt, but, I don't know what's gonna happen in that Walden space, but there's people poking and prodding around, so if anybody's just, if you know of anybody that might be able to use that space, obviously it's a vacant pole in the middle of the village.
We had it covered.
Do you? Okay, good.
That's all I'm saying.
Good.
The owner of the building supposedly wants to
So
sell
do
it.
the owners.
No, there's, he does like real estate development out of Vestal.
Oh.
Yeah,
It's a broker, but it's not really listed, and I don't even know, I think they originally met thinking about maybe listing the place for sale, but the number that the seller wants is like. I don't even know if it would make sense if Walgreens was still there. So there's
What
a
number
little-
did they give you?
like $2 million.
What do
Which,
we heard to?
I mean, there's, I can guarantee you one thing, if that building sells for $2 million, it ain't gonna be anybody that lives around here, and it probably ain't gonna be good.
You wanna know something else? CVS is for sale. And it's 3 point something.
Are you serious? The building?
Yeah,
You're-
it's
you're-
lease.
You're buying a lease,
Yeah.
those transactions are buying a lease, but with an empty Walgreens store, there's no lease to buy. You're buying an old dated strip mall with a big box store that's empty. That's generally not gonna bring
That's
tight.
prime property.
It's prime location,
That's what I'm saying.
but
But we'll see.
I always tell people, don't pay for other people's potential that's not currently being met.
Thank you. Good advice from a banker.
Potential is there, but you should pay the discount to the person that's not seeing it. So just something to.
Yeah.
Aware of. Weagle Garden sewer subsidy. Yeah, Brent, I saw a note on there.
yeah, I've got to dig into it a little more. I just got an update. I reached out to them. They had a new person take over at home leasing, and we had an initial conversation about how at some point the sewer subsidy is gonna cross with what their actual sewer payments are, and she was in agreement, but she took it back and kind of went up the chain. And as they were looking into their operating budget, there's been significant changes in the property insurance industry that has, without the sewer subsidy, it doesn't make their debt service cash flow, basically. So we're kind of subsidizing not just the sewer, but the property insurance and their water. So I
How long
think,
do we have to do that?
well, the way it was written in the amended pilot agreement for the life of the pilot, which is what we're trying to kind of
Get
negotiate
clarified, it's
with
not,
them.
it's not super clear after, what was it, the first 3 years or something like that, which we're well past at this point.
This is two window.
No, this is the first one.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
So I've got to have another call with her and.
I think we should have Aaron come back,
Yeah.
keep talking about William Gardens for the rest
So
of the.
we, if you bring it up. Wheel Gardens one, the lights on the road, you ever get any more complaints from anybody? Because they're not on.
I haven't know, but-
I'll go over there.
I think in regards to where we're at with the sewer subsidy is, as the lower level folks that we initially have discussions with, that sounds like maybe we're making progress. As soon as that moves up the food chain, it becomes dead on arrival.
Right.
So I don't think you're gonna see a lot of, at this point, I'm starting to give up that they're gonna wanna play in a manner that
I think
makes this clean and easy.
they said they would probably agree to just fix what we're paying now and just keep it that way.
And that might be our best option. At least that way it's clear.
25 years.
At least that way it's clear. Cause right now it's not super clear. So we'll keep working on it, but I kinda like the,
Or if we just stop paying this.
the pilot payment would still be the same, but then at least your pilot disbursements would go towards your normal taxing authorities and not sewer. Which is just goofy. So it would be broken.
I always like to know what consequences.
It would go back to the town, the county and the school. Instead of reimbursing them for sewer payments that they're paying late. Audit, nothing new to report there. Governance. The data conditions that you didn't have a chance to reach out to.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, yeah, I mean, we obviously still need to fill our board spot, there was I think it was the superintendent Spencer that Eric brought up. To go and clean. Eric's missed the last.
Yeah, you gotta start looking for me too, so. Just make the list.
I know, yeah, I'm certainly open to any ideas.
I got a few ideas, but I have to wait a little while, you know.
I've reached out to 2 folks, and I thought I had one that was, gonna move forward, they declined, the other one was an outright decline.
We'll find some good people.
Loan committee, we met, actually just this week. We met on Monday to talk about micro enterprise grant, applications. We've made recommendations there, so. Good exercise. I mean, it was great, actually, the number of folks that they had that applied. It makes it tougher on the committee when you got about twice as much in applications as you have for money to disperse, but. Obviously, that's good. Obviously, there was demand there for that, so. Kept loan committee busy for a couple hours on Monday. Railroad, nothing new, public relations, nothing new.
The railroad's doing good.
They are doing.
And that committee's doing a great job.
Sales tax, and I mean, the 2 and 3 are easy. There was a meeting since last meeting with Best Bev. I don't know if anybody wanted to mention that or.
I think they're just working on getting their tracking spreadsheet filled in correctly and
They're at least making progress.
it's gonna expire in June.
Okay.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's no discussion about them needing any further changes. That's gonna expire. They just gotta get their reporting in and then that'd
Yep.
be it.
They said the project's complete.
Sunny Solar, they literally sent a letter like 2 hours ago.
How many times do we get to talk about these?
Well, this one will keep coming up because, according to this, because of tariff issues, they're trying to procure interconnection equipment that now has a lead time that's up to 56 weeks for delivery. So, their initial thoughts of getting ground broken this year, I think, are predominantly donezo, but
This is for a solar farm?
solar field, the big one on Montrose Turnpike, so this would be the biggest one.
So their request to us as of 2 hours ago is, they're asking Tioga County IDA to issue the ST-60, which is their sales tax exemption portion, so we can procure a portion of the equipment needed for the project. I don't think we have to make a motion on anything in regards to, no, we've already approved the pilot. I guess the question just becomes is how does that look if they're only closing on a portion of that? So we'll have to figure that out, but that just happened.
They can sit.
You know,
My brother's probably happy.
put in a whole bunch of new sluice pipes. A lot of them, they end right at trees, and trees are there, but they got a new roadway into a tree. The county's been busy, I think.
I just can't imagine how long this project has been going on.
That has been years.
Yeah, we
There's
talked
been-
in detail about that in the very onset of COVID.
There's been multiple solar farms built
Mhm.
since they came and talked with us
Yeah,
the first time.
so I don't know.
Bizarre. Just bizarre. Oh, well.
Item C on here is the Kinder Morgan request to extend the pilot. You know, Joe's had some discussions with the representative there, I believe, out of Houston this past month. There still seems to be a little bit of a disconnect with that person in regards to perceived benefit of extending that pilot. And Joe talked to them, they're on board, they want to extend it for 10 years, but we've talked about it a bit that at this point,
No value.
yeah, we've already kind of kicked the can down the road once before.
Yep.
All you'd be doing is repeating that same process. Eric has talked in detail about what's happened to him in Chemung that's impacted his district, and he went through some of this past year. You really, all you're doing is trying to put a Band-Aid on a discussion for the school district, and at this point, I am fine recommending that we just let that go. And again, you don't have to make a motion to let it.
I would make that motion.
I don't know that you really have to. I mean, we make no motion, that thing expires.
Okay, that's what I'm gonna agree.
I'm good with that.
All right,
Let the
That's done.
school, let the chips fall where they may.
You
They'll hate us, but
know,
I'm used to that.
well, and you might get a little bit of, you will probably get a little bit of chatter from the guy in Houston too, because again, I think he's under the perception that this makes it easier for them on an assessment basis, which is.
Which it doesn't, and
Unless
it's more
what-
work.
Well, that's what Kevin emailed about that.
Eric?
It was Eric. I mean, Eric talked a little bit about just the ways that those types of properties can be assessed, but again, that's way outside of
Anything to
that
do with
we're-
us.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not.
Besides, we had an agreement and then it's expiring and that's it.
but I like the way that Eric put it, you know, the way Eric described it, because again, I think he just went through some of this heartache as part of their most recent budget discussion is, yes, it makes it look like your tax levy is increasing huge and dramatically. But the thing for the constituents that are voting to keep in mind is that increase and all of the tax associated with that increase are paid by the one property owner that is the reason for it. I mean, that's the most, I think, cleanest.
Yeah.
And that would
The
just
way he
be
explained it.
Yeah.
that's
just
right.
1 year that it would look.
And it's just 1 year,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And again, we learned with Best Buy what an administrative nightmare it is trying to do that kind of step down in installments. We're
Oh,
not
okay,
doing
so,
that
Yeah,
again.
we don't have to do that.
We're not doing that, so.
That's why you have an agreement and when it runs out, it runs out.
And again, I mean, there's people in this room, myself included, that have kids in the school district. I'm not trying to make things difficult on the school district. It's just, it just needs to be clearly explained, and I understand that's not easy to
Yeah, I
do.
think it's presentation.
Mhm.
I know.
And if we can help in that process of being, take our beatings at the same time as them.
Not getting involved in that.
But
My kids are out of school. Grandchildren, yes. Kids, no.
again, I think that Eric explained it really, really well. Yes,
Yeah.
your levy's going way up.
I
But it's
just looked
because
at
of
it.
one property owner.
Yep.
And that one property owner pays the tax
Right.
on that levy, and they have been all along,
Mm.
just in. a
So the
different
money's
bucket.
just moving from one pot to the other
Right.
side, and it's not a big deal.
But in
Just
the end,
think it right.
it shouldn't make any difference.
Again, unfortunately, you're not gonna get your constituents to understand how a pilot works.
I don't understand how our taxes for the school is $60 million either, but that doesn't make any difference.
But the amount doesn't change from so they're paying.
They've been paying 100%
Yeah.
for the last 5 years. It's just that they're paying 100% tax through us.
Right,
As a wholly exempt
right.
property on the rolls.
Yeah.
So it's literally.
Instead of
it
money
comes-
coming from this hand, it's
Yeah.
coming from this one.
So now it'll go back, the property we.
all go to
our
roll
name,
section
Right.
one, it'll go into their,
Their name, right?
It'll be a 1 year hurt.
Yeah.
right, and then it'll be done a done deal,
Yep.
right?
And they just don't like that.
I know.
I had that conversation with Bob a couple of years ago.
Last we'll hear about it.
No, but.
I think at this point,
It's the right thing to do.
yeah, and again, I think we've talked, I've had some, thank you for folks that have reached out and talked about it. I think, I've had some detailed discussions with members of the board. I think for the most part, we're on board. We realize it. It'll have some reaction and
Yeah, it
it's
happened.
it's Albany. I mean, this is not our doing.
No.
We have nothing to do with how the state dictates how tax levy.
How how they calculate their tax.
Right, the tax cap calculation is
Well, yeah,
nothing we
that's
can
what it
change.
boils down to is the calculation, right?
Right.
The way it is.
Yeah.
Right. Project updates, nothing there, grant updates, so we just talked about the top one, that was what Hunt was here to discuss. So we paid 90%, again, I think just from a financial basis, we gotta make sure we book that receivable. Water extension Raymond Hadley, that can get closed out now, right, so that's
It is.
another one that'll fall off.
Yeah, it's supposed to say it's closed. I did email them and they said everything's done for now to do anything else.
So that'll fall off, just recently, the railroad study in Richford fell off, so those are both gonna be gone. Blodgett Road, I actually happened to run into Benton the other day, he was hoping to start that project this week.
Yeah, he's been kind of tied up with water problems
Yeah.
with the creek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. IRP loan application, we talked about that a little bit, so, we're just waiting again on the full package of docs, which we'll share when they're available. And equipment lease, if you wanted to chat on that at all, or?
Yeah, we're gonna have to ask for an extension on it. We've got to kind of get back out there and promote the program and try to get a few more businesses interested in it. Casey just did a video with Deluge to talk about the program and the terms, and that'll go out on our social media and all that, so.
How are you guys, selling the whole reimbursement aspect of that? I mean, do you talk about much of that in your application or anything like that, or you just basically say, hey, you gotta want the money, basically?
I mean, we just kind of explain that piece of it to them, but I haven't had anyone push back on it. I think. we
No, it's just in the guidelines that
Yeah.
explains
Mhm.
that
You
they'll
have-
be
So
reimbursed.
you have a few folks that are interested?
We've got to
sent
follow up
it.
with a couple, yeah, we're
Mhm.
hoping like with the micro enterprise, there might be,
Mhm.
different businesses we can
Mhm.
promote it to,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had a couple,
Cause when's that supposed to expire now?
I believe it's August or September.
I think it's September.
But USDA is pretty good
And
about,
that's like, ideally, really be trying to get it really rolled out at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have anything for the order? Anybody have a reason to go into executive?
I don't
If nothing else.
I can make a motion, we adjourn.
Alright.
Good at that.
Been in this one a long time, Tracy.
Been a long
You
day,
have.
long day.
5:31. Adjourned.
yeah.
Thank you.